Great stuff, though, mate. Thank you so much for coming. So good to see you.
Thoroughly enjoyed. What an awesome weekend. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now we'll move on to the questions. So a question from me to me and you being everyone on the panel. If eating just meat, you don't get any K1. Is it not necessary? How about the carotenoids, lutein, lycopene, and zeaxanthin? It's a funny question. I see where they're coming from. What we're talking about here is the disparity between essential nutrients and things which happen to be in plant foods, which happen to be mechanistically somewhat helpful to some people in limited cohort studies. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a nothing really. Our body can always convert down these sort of things anyway. So for example, MK4 can turn into other MKs, which no one else seems to know. So, you know, I wouldn't worry too much about it. All these plant form versions of food are probably not the most optimal. But does anyone else have a take on it at all?
Oh, we want
Can I just nip off for a bath while Richard answers?
You have a shower as well and a shave and have a dinner while you're at it.
Yeah,
we come back in about 3 hours. We were.
It's all lies. Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. I know that Dr. Labs is gonna. I know that Dr. Labs will have something to add to this, but look, carotenoids are not all they're made up to be. There's only one true carotenoid. It doesn't begin its journey as a pro-oxidant, and that is astaxanthin. The other compounds, the other carotenoids, begin their journey as pro-oxidants. So they're not actually antioxidants. They're pro-oxidants, and they do so by overexpressing the NRF2 pathway, which is an oxidative stress pathway, something that Dr. Abs and I have discussed numerous amounts of times. The expression of this pathway is an oxidative stress pathway. So what we see is when this is expressed, the body will increase glutathione in order to conjugate to a toxin and remove that toxin. And we see an antioxidant effect as such. But it began its journey as a pro-oxidant. Now, other things that will activate this NRF2 pathway and perform this same cascade of events are things like lead, mercury, arsenic, tobacco smoke, cyanide, so on and so forth. It doesn't mean that it can't confer a benefit in the short term. And again, I think Dr. Abs and I discussed this on the podcast that we recorded recently. When we consume these compounds in the short term, they act as medicinal purposes. They act as medicinal compounds, and they can express the NFKB pathway, the nuclear factor kappa B pathway. And there are many arms to this pathway, one of which is NLRP3 inflammasome. So if we take turmeric, for example, it can confer a benefit in regards to an anti-inflammatory response because of this activation. But overexpression activates other arms within this NFKB pathway. Other arms can be interleukins and other inflammatory cytokines that can cause problems later down the line. So personally, I don't believe that there's a benefit to consuming these carotenoids in the long term, but they may be in the short term. For me, it's about addressing the root cause, what is causing the problem, and addressing this. Now, when we look at why it does confer a benefit, or why we believe, and this, I'm not making this up. You can Google this. These things from plants are pro-oxidants, and we know this. But it's believed that it confers a benefit because it will activate pathways in homeostasis. It's called hormetic response, where we give our bodies a little bit of something that's bad and it confers a positive benefit. And there are two different types, molecular homeostasis and environmental. Environmental would be something like training, weight training, which is a stress in the body, but it leads to a positive result. Cold water dipping, red light therapy, so on and so forth. And then we have molecular homeostasis. Now, molecular homeostasis, again, I don't believe is the same. I don't believe it confers the same benefit. Now, an argument to this would be that a ketogenic lifestyle activates or creates this response. But again, it's environmental. If we were living a lifestyle in which we had to fast, that is environmental because of lack of food, and then we become ketogenic for this, and that will elicit that same hormetic response, which is now environmental and not molecular. So these are two very different things. Coming back to what Jonathan just said, these mean very different things coming from different sources. And I believe that everything that we need is found in animal proteins. We don't need any of these compounds from plant compounds. And I would always address and approach these compounds that activate the NRF2 pathway with caution. In short.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the short answer. It's good to have you, Richard. I mean, all we're talking about is the pigmentation that you see in fruits and veg. That's all we see in this question. Carotenoids are not particularly beneficial in any way. And you've got lutein and what's he say there? Zeaxanthin. Zeaxanthin is in egg yolks for a start. So, you know, I think most carnivores eat plenty of eggs if you really have to have that. And lycopene is just in, it's just pigmentation. So all this eating the rainbow stuff, you don't really need it. And as Richard said, it's proposed that they are all antioxidants. Well, you don't need it. And that leads into his next question, which is about vitamin C, which will be for the same reason. It's an alleged antioxidant that we absolutely have to have. Of course, you need less of it because you're not eating much glucose. And also, there is vitamin C in meat. So all of the things, firstly, are not needed. And secondly, they're in egg yolks and meat. If you in small amounts, the small amounts that you need. So I think we've covered that personally.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, Stephen and I were actually at the public health conference back a few months, and do you remember on our table there's 2 or 3 people talking about vitamin C and scurvy and deficiencies. I was like, you do realise as long as you're eating about a pound of meat per day for anyone of any size, you won't be deficient in vitamin C. That will give you all you need, the 2 to 3 milligrams that you require each day to get something in the nanograms per deciliter of blood. So it's, and if you have salmon has double the amount, for example. That's got something like, if ground beef, a pound of ground beef, something like 2 or 3 milligrams, that is like 4 to 6 milligrams, which is more than what you need. We know lots of people out there eating a strict carnivore line diet, so it's unheard of. But I spoke to the person about this, and they didn't really seem to know what they're talking about. And I was like, yeah, you're just throwing around sort of what's the word, Richard? You know what the word is. There's propaganda. That's propaganda. You know, it's like, oh, you don't get your vitamin C in. But yeah, do you guys have any answers to this question here that's come up? So it's obviously just linked to the last question. Do you recommend vitamin C for antioxidant periods when you have a cold or are you ill? So this is referring to like the protocols people use. Maybe they use an intravenous vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Maybe they use something like that. Maybe they use it on their skin. I don't know. Have you guys had much experience with this?
I mean, I've seen this. I'll go for it.
So sorry, I'm straight in after me. Just a really quick one. My feeling on this is sometimes you take massive amounts of vitamin C and it can get rid of the cold, or at least the symptoms of it. But what is a cold? I don't think it's something to be cured. I think that it's some kind of detox that the body goes through. Sorry to sound like a vegan with the detox word, the D word. But I think the body does what it does. And I find if you do anything to suppress the symptoms, you just get it worse the next day. So why not just let it run its course? I mean, it's useful to do something like that. If you've got to go out, you've got to do something maybe. But I just think the body knows what it's doing. Let it do it. That's me.
I mean, when you're talking about intravenous, there are risks. There are serious risks. You don't just go and have an intravenous infusion just for the sake of it, or because it looks trendy, or because it's on offer. There's a big trend in this nowadays. People go to IV clinics and just get an IV. I mean, that's absolutely absurd. And this is medical advice now. I'm telling you, that is not healthy to just go and get an IV on a whim and a fancy just because you think it's cool. If you have a deficiency that requires an infusion of a particular nutrient or set of nutrients, which is required in a dose too large to be given in other ways or for other reasons and needs to be given in an intravenous fashion, fine, go for it. But that's the only time I would recommend something like that. In terms of vitamin C in general, when you've got a cold or when you're ill, the best thing for that is to keep improving your immune system. And the immune system is highly linked to the gut bacteria, the gut microbiome, which in turn is highly linked to what you eat. And so the advice would still be the same as why all of us are on this stream right now, which is to have a carnivore diet, carnivore lifestyle, and you'll be as right as rain, as they say.
Yeah, great stuff. I've got nothing to add to that. Has anyone else got anything to say about vitamin C and colds and things? No, we're all good. We'll move on. So it's just a big Nev asking us very politely to hit the like button. If you haven't already, why not? Bad idea. From Matthew, hi Team GB. What are your thoughts supplementing milk thistle for supporting liver detoxification and other benefits? Might go with Stephen for this one if he's got an answer.
I thought you were going to go first there. I mean, obviously it's a herb, and the herbs are used medicinally. I've never really recommended it for supporting the liver detoxification and stuff like that because it's not my wheelhouse really to do that. And I think even with people I see with diabetes, a few of those are recommended to have milk thistle. But I personally feel, I'm not anti-herbs. I do believe that this way of eating means you don't need to supplement with stuff like that. The best way to detox the liver is to reduce your sugars, refined carbohydrates, that sort of thing needs to not come in. Alcohol, obviously. Liver health, you just need to make sure you're hydrated, which doesn't mean lots of water either. It just means eating the appropriate amount. If you have tried it and it's improved things, well, I'm all for anecdotal evidence. Jonathan's been in that arena for part of his life, so he might have something different to say because he always surprises me with his knowledge, and he's obviously seen a lot of people maybe using it. But for me personally, I've never seen anything or heard anyone give me a convincing reason why they would take it. And I have had a couple of people say they've taken it in the past and it didn't really do much. But I'm not going to belittle something if there's people out there that have taken it and it's done really well. But liver health is really about those other things I've said. No alcohol, reduced refined carbohydrates, proper hydration, and just keeping away from anything that's inflammatory, really.
Cool. Can I have a woo-woo?
Yeah, have a go.
Yeah, a sort of weird take on this, that in all the thousands of things I tried when I was vegan, one thing worked, and that was liver flushing. And it's a lot of people go, it doesn't work, it doesn't do that. I don't know what it does, but having been a real proponent of it and seen a load of people really sort out all kinds of things from it, like skin issues, because the skin can be a sort of second or third organ of detox when the liver's backed up, and just a ton of other benefits that come, like being able to digest fats again, because a lot of people who have an issue with the liver or gallbladder can't digest fats. And I've done over 60 of them now, so I don't know anyone who's done any more. I don't do them anymore. I'm on carnivore, I don't need to. But if you do have a liver that is backed up with a kind, sort of all sorts of stuff that gets in there, and these are sort of soft, globby things that do not show up on X-ray, so people don't believe that there's liver stones. You only see the calcified ones. I know it's nuts. I know it sounds weird, but it absolutely works. And there are ways of adapting it to carnivore from the old vegan nonsense. And so if anybody wants to email me, people do quite often to say, can you send me the protocol? Give it a go. You'll be amazed. I've never seen any benefits from liver flushing. I mean, from milk thistle, but liver flushing definitely does. But if you do it, just mark my words, do not be too far from a toilet the next day. There is, Ben made up the expression "Arsemageddon" for this, and it really is. It's crazy. You need to be next to the toilet. But whatever it does, if it doesn't even quite do it by the pathways that they say it does in the old Andreas Moritz books, who I think was a genius, except that he died early at about 57, I think, because he insisted on a plant-based diet, and I reckon that's what killed him. But Andreas Moritz, everything else he says is amazing. And I know it's controversial, but if you've got a liver issue, it's certainly not going to do you any harm. Give it a go. Find me through philescott.com or whatever, ask for the protocol. Mad as a box of frogs, it sounds, but give it a go. There we go.
Nice one. Yeah, I think bang for your buck. I'll give a very brief 2 cents on this. It is effective and it does work. It does seem to normalize liver values for some people, particularly in bodybuilding circles. If you're a chronic alcohol user or drug user of some kind, it's probably better to have it in than not. However, bang for your buck, I'd rather see someone invest their money into something like TUDCA. That's TUDCA. I've had a very tremendous benefit from liver health from that. My liver values have pretty much bang on since taking that versus not. I've got data to prove it and compare against as well. The other thing is NAC. So if you want an all-round kind of overall benefit to detoxification pathways, I'd look at NAC. But that's probably slightly less specific to TUDCA in terms of liver health. But yeah, TUDCA, 1 gram per day, something like that could be effective. Split it up in the dose, maybe morning and evening. That's what I've liked. That's what I found effective personally. And bear in mind, I'm someone that has a blood test regularly. I'm sure Stephen and some of the other guys do, certainly. And I've seen a benefit myself in terms of using it as an intervention. So that's TUDCA, which I'd rather see someone spend their money on. On Amazon, you can buy 2 bottles of it for like £30, and that will last you 2 months or so. It's worth a try. I'd say give it a good 8 weeks. But yeah, we'll move on to the next question now, because I think
vodka for the liver is quite good.
Arnold used to do vodka. Yeah, it's pretty effective. It's good for a pump. Jim Beam is good for a pump, I heard.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not having any Jim Beam now, guys. It'll ruin me. Is it normal to gain weight after quit smoking, even I eat daily meat? And how long does it take? I am only losing when I fast, but after I gain it back on. I'd like to hear Dr. Abs respond to this one. Also, Stephen, perhaps, because I know, Stephen, you are a health coach in terms of like diabetes and a lot of body composition, obesity stuff. So that might be up your wheelhouse. But we'll give Dr. Abs the stage quickly first. So.
I'll keep it brief because I think Stephen's experiences of coaching people is really, really worthwhile here. But yes, absolutely, it can happen for sure. So, for example, you've got metabolic changes. Nicotine, which is obviously the addictive substance in cigarettes, there's a stimulatory effect on metabolism, and that can increase the rate at which your body is burning through metabolic substrate, or its basal metabolic rate. So when you quit smoking, the metabolism can sort of slow down slightly so that you're metabolizing less, and that can contribute to weight gain. There is a return to baseline metabolism. So after you quit, it will come to your kind of natural rate, but it's not going to happen instantaneously. So no wonder you're experiencing this adjustment period, which can lead to weight gain. There's also an increased appetite because nicotine can suppress appetite. And that's well known. So when you quit smoking, that effect is now lost. So you've got an increase in appetite and therefore a greater desire to eat. And when you quit smoking, can also lead to an improvement in taste and smell, which kind of makes food more, I was going to say palatable, but that enjoyable, whatever word you want to use. And that can lead to a higher food intake as well. And then sometimes when you quit, people need a substitute. Some people, whether they realize it or not, they actually use food as a substitute. I don't know whether it's happening here or not, but it's one thing to look at. Then you got changes in physical activity. Sometimes the process of quitting can lead to a change in your routine. Is that having an effect, perhaps? But also another one is fluid retention. So some of the weight gain after you quit smoking can actually be because of temporary fluid retention, because nicotine can act as a diuretic. So you take it away and your body can retain more fluids initially, which can then contribute to a temporary increase in weight gain. So that's kind of a breakdown medically of what's actually going on in that process. But like I said, I think Stephen would have some really nice experiences to kind of talk about too.
Lovely.
Yeah, that was a great answer, Abs. I mean, that's one of the things, and I'm glad you mentioned it about your sense of smell, because smell has a huge impact on how much you enjoy your food. So one of the reasons it suppresses appetite is exactly that. You have that reduced sense of smell, which explains why smokers don't know they smell of smoke. You know, they'll come into your house if you're a non-smoker and you'll say, wow, you need to have a shower. I don't say that, I'm not as blunt as that, but they do have that reduced sense of taste and smell. So they don't want to eat. That's one of the things. Or when they do eat, it's not as enjoyable, which is really interesting. So that hooks into the dopamine response. And yes, you do get that increased metabolism. And also it has a blood glucose thing. You know, when we talk about diabetes, it does actually look at the way glucose is managed, and fats, actually, the nicotine. But anyway, to answer the actual question, is it normal to gain weight after quitting smoking? Yes. Even if you eat daily meat, yes. Because what's going to happen is you've had this increase in your metabolic rate, and when you stop smoking, that increased metabolic rate actually starts to drop a little bit. Also, gaining weight can simply be the fact that when you smoked, you didn't eat, and now you're not smoking, you eat, and you could be drinking coffee with cream or something. So you change one habit for another. So how long does it take for everything to normalize? You only lose it when you fast, but I gain it back on. That's because you're still dealing with the metabolic rate and habit. How long does it take? It can take as quick as 7 weeks to start to normalize. Sorry if 7 weeks seems a long time. That's actually quite an optimistic time. I always do a very glib answer, but it tends to be true in most cases. It's normally about 26 weeks plus or minus 6. That's an average. And I do look at these things. I'm sad with my data. I keep a lot of notes, and that tends to be sort of the time. And I do lose people when I'm that honest, because they'll go and see someone else online and they'll say, oh, I can sort this in a couple of weeks. And I don't think that's true. I've not seen that. So 7 weeks if you're lucky, 20 weeks to about 32 is sort of an average. And but the health gains you're going to get from stopping smoking are immense and amazing. And you are now replacing it with good habits, eating meat, which is really great. And your body will love it for it. But, you know, that adaptation period be very interesting. Once you get your sense of smell and taste back, you might become one of those very anti-smoking ex-smokers, you know. So try not to get into that groove as well.
Excellent.
Just like quickly ask whether, you know, you might have swapped tobacco for smoking ganja, and you're sending a taxi out at 2 a.m. for a wheelbarrow full of Monster Munch at the 24-hour garage. So that might have something to do with it. If you have and you got the munchies, then maybe that's an answer.
Maybe. Sorry. Yeah.
Not very scientific, but
bodybuilders do use nicotine in contest preparation at times. It's more of a niche kind of thing. But Dr. Ab's completely right. It does suppress appetite, and everything that the guys said was completely bang on, in my opinion. I can't really expand upon that at all. But I will say that there is some kind of pathway where Dr. Abs will understand this better than me, but we won't go into it because it's not relevant. It's not pertinent. But there's some kind of way where it activates certain, I believe it's beta receptors, something which enhances the PPAR, you know, the fat burning, AMPK, that sort of thing. I can't remember which receptors they are, but if you type in something like nicotine receptors, it'll come up with something, and your fat burning is slightly higher when you're using nicotine. Now, is that going to make you ripped or not? I don't know. Probably not. But the guys touch on some really good points, and I think a lot of it is around like the sense of taste, the inhibition of appetite, and all that sort of thing. And I'll stop rambling. We're going to try and keep it to two answers per question now, if we can. So actually, sorry, we've got a question from... it's from me, but it's from Unrefined, and it says, aside from kidney damage, can anything cause blood creatinine to be 173 millimole and a GFR of 29? ACR was under 3 milligrams, HbA1c was 5.8, CRP was 4.1, trigs 2, and blood pressure is good. Relatively new to serious carnivore. That's a good question. That is a very good question. And I know what Steve was going to say, because I've learnt from him some stuff. So I'll pass it over to Steve now to elaborate.
Actually, Jonathan, can you tell us what you think he's going to say, and then Stephen, you confirm whether it's right. I want to see how well he knows you.
Okay, so the first one's going to be about creatinine. Apologies, I've still got you on the front screen. First, it's going to be about creatinine, resistance training, are you having a high protein diet? That can elevate it, obviously. The next one, GFR, that could be an underlying issue. You'd have to get more tests done, more specific tests done. ACR, honestly, I don't know what the hell that is.
That's the albumin to creatinine ratio.
Okay. Yeah, so it's probably, makes sense. HbA1c is fine. It does tend to creep up with a lot of carnivores because the red blood cells last longer, something like that. CRP, ideally you want it down to about 0, but CRP of 4 isn't bad by any means. I'd go more by subjective measures. Triglycerides I wouldn't even bother looking at. Blood pressure is good. Okay, good. Define the range. Is it 100 over 65? Is it 130 over 90? I imagine it's somewhere between there. So yeah, that's probably roughly what you'd say, I think. But correct me.
Oh no, this panel isn't about correcting. One thing is, I would say to the person posting, if it's 173 millimoles, that's probably not the right metric, to be honest. But yes, what can cause creatinine to be high? Yes, excess or above the normal person in the world's protein intake. Dehydration, which I was surprised Jonathan missed, because it's a big factor actually in all bloods. You need to make sure you're properly hydrated, which is not about drinking tons of water. It's about drinking enough water with the right amount of electrolytes. Yes, there could be some medications that you're taking that can actually cause that. And I think the rest of what Jonathan said about creatinine is pretty good. The EGFR 29 is a calculation based on urea, which is always going to go up if you eat slightly more protein. So the EGFR is a flawed metric, and you need to do a cystatin C test. Give you a really good example. I had somebody who had an EGFR of 14, which puts them stage 5, and therefore they need to have dialysis. But they didn't think that was possibly true. They had a cystatin C, and the actual filtration rate was 48. All right, which makes them pretty safe. Not great. You need to be over 60. So the albumin to creatinine ratio is going to be completely knocked out on carnivore because creatinine is slightly higher. So the normative ranges are not that great as a reference for that. But it is an interesting thing to look at that ratio. I'm not overly worried about it. And again, I think you need to look at the labs, the way they've set that out, actually. So it's difficult to actually tell you any more because the creatinine, I think you might have the metrics wrong. You might have the... Anyway, what's the next question? HbA1c, yeah, absolutely right. Spot on, Jonathan. The red blood cells last extra time. If you don't believe that, you can get a reticulocyte count, and that will pretty much prove that your red blood cells are living longer. You can get an RDW, which is a red blood cell distribution width, and you can get an MCV test, and that will show you that your red blood cells, I've started to use this by the way, are old and wrinkly. You know, as they get older, they get a little bit knobbly, a bit gnarly, and that will actually come up. But the reticulocyte count will put your mind at rest. CRP of 4.1, just to put that in context, it's normally 0 to 5 that you want, so that's really good. But I've seen them in triple figures. I've seen CRP of over 100. If that makes you feel better. I even had a client that came to me on 80, and we were celebrating getting it down to 20. All right. So don't forget, clinical presentations are really important as well. So CRP might be 4.1, but how you're feeling and where was it before you did the blood tests. Trig's not too worried about without HDL, which would be an interesting thing to have a look at. And BP is good. So great.
That's beginner stuff on CRP. The best CRP I've had, my personal best, is 192.
100 odd.
192. So no.
Very good. We'll move on to the next question. Sorry, Richard, where do you get your shirts from? Apparently it's personal that you're here, so you can answer that question.
Now, before he answers that, when we did one of the events at Cliff College earlier this year, Doc Malik was there, and he was always going on to Richard about how tight his shirts were and how great his pecs were and all that. And then when he came up to do his talk, Malik goes, "Good God," he said, he had tight shirts on, but have you seen how tight his trousers are today?
They're very skinny, aren't they, Richard?
If anyone wants to see Richard's shirts, the podcast episode will probably be coming out on Sunday. If you'd like to make some memes out of it.
But you've got to get to a live event to see Richard's trousers, because he was pretty much laminated into them as well over the weekend.
Definitely.
If I had legs like that, I'd do the same anyway. So what?
Richard, where'd you get your shirts from then? I want to hear where you get shirts from.
So I get these from Tailored Athlete. H6. Tailored Athlete. And the reason for this, when I was bodybuilding, Jonathan, as you know, and as Dr. Abs, in fact, almost everybody on the panel has dabbled in bodybuilding. It's really difficult to find something that fits right. The Tailored Athlete shirts, and I'm not sponsored by them, they are ridiculously expensive, I think, for a shirt. But they do fit. They're well fitted and they do stretch. The size that I wear now is considerably smaller than when I was actually bodybuilding. It's sort of, I'm trying to grip on to this body shape as I waste away into an endurance runner and cyclist. But I'm still clinging on to past images of myself. But yeah, Tailored Athlete. But as Phil says, if you want to see sprayed on clothes, come and join us at the Carnivore conference next month.
See, when I asked Richard in the weekend, he told me he bought them from Baby Cap the other day.
They'll be slippier and tighter than ever. If you go to the conference, they'll be the slippiest and tightest you've ever seen.
Yes,
and set new standard to this. All right, let's answer a question, shall we? Toto asks, hi all, any thoughts about Interleukin 11? New study shows that it's crucial promoting, I think it means 2, crucial promoting fibrosis in organs. Any idea how to inhibit this protein? Huge thanks. Oh God, let's not spend an hour on this one. Give us a 1 minute answer, Richard.
Look, living a ketogenic carnivore-based lifestyle. I'll put the times on the clock. This pathway that you just mentioned in regards to NFKB, this will activate a number of interleukins, 2, 6, 8, and 12, I believe. And again, that's overexpressed by the overconsumption of foods from the plant kingdom. If you want to block this, taking and removing the offending compound is always going to be number one. Stop eating plants. Stop leaving your body susceptible to all of these toxins that come from plants and external environments. The best way to combat and reduce these is to live a ketogenic, carnivore-based lifestyle. Utilize beta-hydroxybutyrate in the blood. Beta-hydroxybutyrate will block these pathways, these inflammatory cytokines. Don't put them in, and you don't have to block them. How was that? Was that 60 seconds or less?
Yeah, well done.
That was like 42 seconds. I'm very proud of you. There we go. I'm happy with that.
I woke up early. I was ready for a nap then. Jesus.
Right. So for many years, I've had several verrucas on one foot. Since taking taurine, they have gone. Why? My guess would be it inhibits some kind of bacterial infection. My second guess would be that it helps hydrate your feet. That would be my 2 guesses based on the limited understanding of taurine and the mechanisms of play with verrucas on the foot. This might be a question for Dr. Abs, maybe. I mean, do you know much about amino acids and inhibition of things?
Yeah, amino acids, I look into them a lot. Taurine is an aminosulfonic acid. A lot of different roles in the body, like bile salt formation, osmoregulation, cellular protection against oxidative stress. It's not typically associated with like directly treating verrucas or plantar warts, as they're also known. It may contribute to supporting the immune system, which has an indirect effect on things like that, and it can contribute to maintaining cellular integrity, promoting tissue repair, like the health of skin cells and things like that. But I personally haven't heard of any direct verruca treatment specifically using taurine in isolation.
Fair, yeah,
they've used taurine in vitro because it's the HPV virus that causes verrucas, and it does inhibit the replication of tissue. So that makes some sense to me.
Nice one. I'm going to give a question out. I'm going to direct it to Lee just from where he hasn't spoken much. I want to make sure everyone has a turn. A lot of these questions, guys, are so niche. Like one of us can answer them, it seems like today. The question was... Okay. what are your opinions on the use of medication to stop cows from having flatulence to protect the ozone? So cows stop having farts and poos. Personally, I don't think cows are the answer, but will this damage or change meat?
I have heard of this. I've not looked into this. I don't know what medication they would use, but clearly it's got to be a problem. I'm not sure what they would use or how it would work, but maybe it would sort of damage the enzymes to break down the food. So maybe they wouldn't be able to metabolize food properly. That would just be my guess. And then you're kind of consuming I don't know, subpar meat, but I have no clue. Honestly, I haven't looked into this.
Should we not be getting everybody off veganism and onto carnivore so they stop farting?
It's their argument as well. It's their argument. You know, they're the ones that have their point in aiming the blame at the cows for all the methane, and then they're kind of chowing down on plant bones. You know, all plants contain fiber. So yeah, it's nuts. But I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
I'm
Lee,
sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, put my tinfoil hat on and say
Yeah.
that all the climate thing is a complete load of nonsense to stop us eating meat and stop us doing anything. So sod it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Lee, can you just speak a little bit about your experience on going fully carnivore? And obviously you had, the big surgery and everything. What did that do personally from your perspective to any flatulence?
Oh, God, it's just massively reduced. I used to, on a Friday or a Saturday, it almost became like a religion. I'd have like an Indian takeaway. And if I had it on a Friday and I'd done my week's work, I'd lay in for a couple of hours extra, I'd wake up and the whole bag would be mostly full of air with all the onions and the mushrooms, the carrots, the pea, all the stuff, the herbs, spices, everything that they put in there. I'd eat one tub of curry with a naan bread or something like that. Wake up the next day with a balloon attached to my stomach. And sometimes it was so full that I've showed you a little bit how you unfasten it to empty. I couldn't do that because it's so full. It's like, it's just going to jet out. And so what I'd have to end up having to do is stand over the toilet with a bit of the spray that takes the sticky off the stomach. And then that way the air can come out a little bit and I can kind of close the bag and then empty it. You know, that's how bad it was. So
Like kind of bleeding a radiator. Yeah. When I was veggie and vegan, cooking vegetarian sort of Indian food for many years, and I remember we had a house with a bunch of guys sharing it up in this sort of meditation kind of community, and we joked that we had a methane level in the house, and you had to crawl around to breathe air because if you stood up, it was just farts.
Wow.
And I just honestly, I don't know why people don't listen to their own arse.
Yeah.
And say that, look, seriously, this is not something we're supposed to be eating.
Yeah. No, it's completely reduced now. I mean, the only air that I would probably end up in the bag is the air I'm taking in when I'm eating. You know, I often say this, it's not like I'm sure there's some partial fermentation of certain things.
The air you're taking in eating. Did you ever see that talk, Dr. Clapper, a vegetarian or vegan guru kind of guy, saying it's nothing to do with fermentation in the gut, farts. It's to do with swallowing more air.
Cool.
So why do you swallow more air when you eat plants than when you eat steak or something? And then Tristan Haggard was doing his take of it and goes, remember, guys, deflate your lettuce before you eat it. It's just extraordinary stuff these vegan guys come out with. Anyway, sorry. Let's get some questions.
Let's do some questions. We've probably got about 10, 15 minutes left. I'm trying to pick ones that help the most amount of people, guys. So if they're very niche to you, it's, we're not going to be able to help many people answering them. I'm trying to think of something we haven't answered every single week for the past 30 weeks. Here we go. We can all answer this one. Do any of you take supplements? They're referring to things like iodine, vitamins, minerals, that sort of stuff. Should we just go around the panel as we sit? So Lee, Phil, Abs, Stephen, Richard, and me.
So only since coming out of the hospital, my last visit, which is going to be my last visit, won't be going back there again. I've been taking Keto Pro's non-flavored electrolytes, and I also just put a little bit of taurine in there as well. I do believe in that, and that was Jonathan's suggestion. Obviously, Harry Sopanos is the guy that you want to go to learn about taurine. We're going to get enough taurine anyway, really. But I had some things I wanted to fix, and it's seemingly fixed it. So I do believe that free-form taurine can be super helpful. And electrolytes, if they're from Keto Pros, you know, they're super clean, no nasties. You can opt for the non-flavored if you're not happy about, you know, trying to fight the sweetness and then perhaps cravings that you get after that. I do believe either you got to add salt or a little bit of electrolytes to your water, even if it's, yeah, I'm only drinking maybe up to a litre of water a day. But I do think that does need to contain minerals, otherwise you're just flushing them out of your system. That's about it. I wouldn't bother really with anything else unless you've got kind of like a niche problem that you know that there's some science behind supplementing some other kind of molecule or chemical or something, you
know. No, I don't. No supplements. I've mucked about with iodine protocols in the past a little bit after seeing it just do amazing things for my mum and reversing breast cancer and whatever on top of carnivore. But my supplement, really, if I feel I need a supplement, it's liver. That's my supplement, or occasionally oysters. And that's what I think about it, really. I have to admit, I've got to give a plug for Richard's electrolytes. I don't, well, the flavored ones, you know, the ones with some kind of sweetener in are so nice that the family just drink them as like soda, and it's just, so I don't get them anymore. But Richard, you might be getting an order off us anyway soon, because the family are crying out for it, because I won't let them drink all this sugary stuff. But I have the unflavored ones, and once in a blue moon, if I'm a bit run down or something, I'll have a bit of a scoop of that. But just the electrolytes, that's it. Even that quite rarely. But no, it's great when people go carnivore. They get that cupboard with all those outdated supplements in. The amount of supplements they bought that they could buy a new car with, and they all go in the bin because they're all out of date. You don't really need it. Liver's a good supplement.
Not a huge amount. I take these ones again, same electrolytes. This is a cherry flavor. And then I've also got the C8 powder here as well. Sometimes I'll mix them, which is quite nice. Keeps you going. I just never really get hungry. I do have a protein powder as well from a different company. That's only when I'm traveling, because I'm every month I'm usually in like 3 or 4 different countries working on different things. And sometimes because of time zone differences, I don't know if I can trust the food that's in restaurants that can only open at night. So I'll just have a protein powder instead. Apart from that, I also have a vitamin D and K2. Again, that's only if I'm traveling and I'm awake in the middle of the night and asleep during the day, or I'm in a hotel all day or a plane all day, and then I might have it. That's pretty much it. Not a lot else for me personally.
Cool.
Your answer really surprised me then, actually. Really surprised me. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I carnivore, obviously, and I do take Stem Enhance. I'll put a link in the chat if anyone is interested in that. That's a Cerul product, which I've taken, then taken out, and then put back in, and it has been fabulous for me. Which it just increases the amount of stem cells released into the bloodstream. So that is the one I do on a regular basis. But I am experimenting at the moment with fermented cod liver oil. And I agree with Abs about vitamin D3 and K2. So as of next month, I'm going to be doing that over the winter months and then doing a vitamin D test. So I'm only telling you the supplements I'm taking because they are mainly experiments, but the Stem Enhance is sort of a permanent fixture.
Can I just quickly say before Richard gets in there, I was lying. I do take the Cerul. I don't think that I just sort of see it as a yeah, I guess it is a supplement. Is it? Absolutely is. So I was lying. So I think that you know, we're not going to fight over links, but go for Stevens. But it's definitely got me extra movement in a completely trashed knee while I've been taking it. So yeah, thanks, Bart. Very good.
Boom. Fair play. Guys, you've blown me away. Thank you so much for all the positive reviews on the products. Look, first and foremost, I make supplements, and I do this in order to support the community, regardless of where they are along their journey. But if you eat this way of living, if you live this way, if you live a ketogenic carnivore-based lifestyle, your requirement for supplements is non-existent. It can be non-existent. You don't have to supplement with anything. there are differences in degrees. Gravitating into the journey, your requirement for sodium, potassium is going to be higher, and that's where the electrolytes can come in handy. As you gravitate in, many within the lifestyle don't need to supplement, so they can come away from these things. If you train extensively, as I do, and many of the guys on the team do, then we do need to replace these lost electrolytes and so on and so forth. So this is by no means a sales pitch, but they are there for a reason, should you wish to work outside that box and push the boundaries. So personally, I use electrolytes, the unflavored. I've popped a link in there, and the guys have kindly posted that link also. The unflavored are absolutely disgusting if you do like flavor, but they are clean. They're completely devoid of all sweeteners. And then there are sweeter options if you are gravitating into it slowly. Again, as Dr. Abs, I use the MCT powder. And I also use exogenous ketones. So my blend during Phil's fantastic event this weekend for when I was on stage presenting and during the Q&As was a blend of exogenous ketones in form of the raspberry bomb and the MCT. And this was just enough that I needed. This is what I needed to supply my brain and my body with all of the energy that it needs to bring out all of these big words that I can't remember most of the time.
I think you do all right. Yeah, my supplement thing is, I came from a supplement background. That's what we bought. That's what we found effective. It's like, what was the next best thing? Really, I just needed to work a bit harder and diet a bit harder. That is pretty much it, if I'm honest, for my goals. I think a lot of these things are useful as transitional interventions. So something like Richard's Keto Pro, which is on the screen now, the electrolyte product. Yeah, I do use that, and I'll use it on a hot day when I'm sweating a lot. Maybe I don't want to, salt my food a lot that day. Maybe I'm not having much food that would have a lot of salt on it. Maybe my appetite's go down a bit, but I still need to maintain hydration, so I will use products like that. I've got the Keto Pro entire range, so I use all the products. The only things I don't use are the chocolate flavors because I can't tolerate chocolate, but the vanilla, the orange, the berry, and all that sort of thing, strawberry. So yeah, I use the protein powder, which is a blend of, I believe, 4 different animal proteins. I use the electrolytes, all 3 flavors, unflavored as well, and also use the MCT powder, and I also use the Ketone BHB Keto Pro product. I use that one more in reserve just because it is more pricey, but I reserve it for when I'm like really flagging towards the tail end of contest prep. It does seem to provide a boost, and I do feel better when I use it. I actually feel quite calm, so I can see why someone would use it before a study session, before bed to wind down. I'm all for it. Outside of that, the ones that I typically would use or recommend are typically a vitamin, a mineral, or amino acid. I've gone down the Dr. Abs route for some things, look at certain things, peptide therapies. I'm a biohacker. I want to get every result I can. Maybe it's going to be 1%, I don't know, but I'll probably take it. So I'm still trying to find my way in terms of the supplements and things that I should be taking. Liver health is imperative to bodybuilders. If your liver doesn't work, you don't detoxify fast enough, you don't recover fast enough, you don't process food as well, your appetite goes down, and therefore you can't perform. If you can't eat, you can't perform. So I take good care of my liver health. So that's with TUDCA, NAC, things like that, mostly year round. Other than that, I'll sporadically use vitamins and minerals, amino acids, maybe some citrulline, tyrosine, taurine pre-workout, creatine, vitamins, maybe a B complex sometimes. I'll use that only for a few days, generally speaking. So just intermittently when I feel like I could do a bit more, to be honest. Other things, the minerals, sort of magnesium, vitamin D3, K2, that sort of thing. Some of them are more staples, some of them are less staples. I find that some things work in the background and they're effective, for example, vitamin D. But something like magnesium, you might notice the first night you take it. But just remember, the effects that you get aren't necessarily representative of the fact it's benefiting you as a whole. So vitamin D is very well studied in the literature to be beneficial, amongst other things. But it doesn't mean that you're going to feel it. You're not going to take it once. It's got to build up in your blood. My current experiment is injectable amino acids. I'm using the carnitine version at the moment, and it's been largely effective, which surprised me a lot. So for me, my rationale for taking it was there's very hard science on autism symptom remission, at least in children. The other one is spine disease and pain-related issues. Chronic fatigue, obviously, carnitine helps the mitochondrial function. And then we've got, there's another one, I can't remember, fat burning, which is helpful when you're trying to lose body fat. Helps transport things out the cell, in the cell, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's been my experience. I won't go on about it anymore, but yeah, I use them admittedly. Most of my clients take at least one, but they came to me taking about 5. So, you know, my goal is to get everyone off supplements. That's the end point I'd look for everyone. But the reality is most people on a carnivore diet do take a supplement, a nutraceutical, a powdered food form of something. So I'm not averse to it. So when Dr. Ab said he takes protein powder, I wasn't really worried. I thought, well, it's going to be damn lot better than eating a protein bar, you know, with erythritol, all these extra ingredients, just have a bit more crunch in it, little cocoa pieces and emulsifiers, all sorts of stuff you don't need. So I can't really fault him for that, and I think the guys can do what they want. But yeah, the funny thing is we had a comment on the chat just now about someone saying powders. The reality is most people on the carnivore diet do take supplements and powders, so figure that one out. We'll move on now.
For me, when I'm awake at midnight, because I'm actually working near Bart soon in New Zealand, I'm going to be awake in the middle of the night where I've only got McDonald's and KFC. So that's the time when I would take the powder. So it's always relative, and I think that's why, you know, even if you look at the keto bars that Richard does, to a strict carnivore, you might say, well, that's not part of my diet. But someone going into carnivore, or someone who is that is relatively better than what they're eating, it's always a step forward. And I think that's the perspective for meat causes autism. But I think that's the right perspective to look at supplements. Is it a step forward?
Absolutely. It's about progression, guys, isn't it? I won't ramble on. We got one more question to answer. So if anyone on the panel has to go now, feel free. It's just the last question we'll do tonight. It's from Sheree Morgan. I'd like to hear Lee's thoughts on this one, actually, if possible. What's your thoughts on eating raw wild salmon? Only sushi, I find, is farmed. Do you think salmon is as healing as bison? Thank you. She's also kind of wondering a bit about lion diet. Is it worth her getting on it for her issues with her jaw and bone? So I have spoken to this lady personally, so I know her situation probably better than you guys, but bad jaw, bad bone health, bad bone density, lower muscle mass, still does all the health hacks and usual sort of thing. Now the question is, would you swap out your sort of diet to have more of a wild raw salmon sort of diet? And I know Lee might have a good take on this one.
If she's still got weakness in her teeth, because I remember this lady from last time, then wild salmon's great. It's very, very soft and delicate. I've eaten a lot of wild salmon. The only thing that you probably will struggle with is the skin. For some reason, as soon as you apply heat to that, it kind of just almost melts in your mouth where you can crisp it up. But when it's raw, it's very, very tough. And so I would obviously discard that or cook that. But yeah, it's very soft and nutrient dense. Like you said earlier, it's higher in vitamin C. I don't necessarily think that a lion diet is better for someone. If you can tolerate eggs, you know, I think eat eggs. Eat what you can tolerate, eat what you enjoy, mix it up. You know, I think Jonathan would agree with this. But, you know, a nice sort of variety-based carnivore diet is great. You know, if you can tolerate these things, then definitely butter, things like that. Obviously, Phil, on the other side of things, you can't tolerate eggs, can't tolerate butter. And so, you know, he'd be a fool to consume these things. He needs to kind of look out for himself and his health, and he does best on a lion diet. Lamb, I think, is probably what he eats the majority of. But yeah, I would recommend wild salmon. I wouldn't waste your time with the farm stuff. I wouldn't really feel comfortable eating that stuff raw. But yeah, it's very, very delicate, and it's quite enjoyable actually to eat. It doesn't really taste. It tastes less fishy raw than it does cooked. How about that?
Nice one. Has anyone else got a take on this one before we wrap up? Sure.
Yeah, I have. For vegan brains out there, wild salmon has B12, so you've got to supplement with that if you're a vegan.
Also got B6 and D3 and K2 and heme iron and retinol and carnosine,
taurine, beta-alanine,
all of which do not exist in plants.
Not ever.
Never. You won't find them.
That's it, really.
Have we answered that question sufficiently, do you think, guys? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Was that worth $5?
Just to circle back really quickly to the bone health that you mentioned. Bone is mineralized protein. So it predominates protein. It's made of protein and minerals. So in order to strengthen bones, we need protein and we need minerals. So protein needs to be predominated, regardless of the source. Salmon is a fantastic source. It's a fantastic source of vitamin D also. But any animal protein is going to confer a benefit. In order to send calcium to the bone, we also need sodium. So the correlation of calcium to the bone is directly correlated with sodium, amongst other things. But we need these components in order to build and repair bone. So just remember, the dry weight of bone is around 40% animal proteins. So always predominate animal proteins regardless of the protocol.
Yeah, let's do a £5 answer. Don't forget, salmon contains astaxanthin.
It does.
It also contains choline. Yeah, it does.
Good amount.
Pick me up on that in a second. Don't forget EPA, DHA, omega-3s, basically. You've got lots of protein there, like they say, selenium and potassium. But talk about astaxanthin, because that's in salmon. Richard.
Yeah. Astaxanthin.
Load of it.
It is. Astaxanthin is the only carotenoid that exists that does not begin its journey as a pro-oxidant. So remember early when I jumped on, we were talking about oxidants, antioxidants, and pro-oxidants. Astaxanthin is a compound found naturally in salmon. And it is the king of the carotenoids, if you like. It's and depending on the studies that you look at, and there are many, there are over 1,000 clinical and preclinical trials in regards to the benefits of astaxanthin. It's around 550 times more potent than vitamin E as an antioxidant, 800 times stronger than coenzyme Q10. Varying different studies suggest it's between 60 to 800 times stronger than vitamin C. It's an incredible compound that is genuinely an antioxidant, and it does not begin its journey as a pro-oxidant. It does not activate or overexpress this NRF2 pathway. So a fantastic compound to add to your diet.
Can I just
to wrap this up,
Jonathan? Can I just do something really quickly here? Is this the real vegan gains in the chat?
I'm thinking that as well. I'm just about to put him up on the screen.
Years and can bench 410 pounds. How many of you carnivores can bench that much? Tell you what, mate. If you are the real,
165 kilos, maybe.
Bench that much. I'd rather not be able to bench that much when the brain goes. I believe that you're in so much hunting mode because your body's craving meat so much that you want to go and stamp on children in push chairs because there are too many people in the world. Did you not get your channel pulled down for that, mate? You're a bit of a laughing stock. Well done for benching.
Elitist bell end is what he is.
If he's talking about strength as well, by the way, I'm not sure he knows that I was a powerlifter and I trained with arguably the strongest powerlifter, or the greatest powerlifter of all time is considered Andy Bolton. When I was weighing around, roughly speaking, 70 kilo body weight, my biggest deadlift was over 1/4 of a ton, 251 kilos. So if he would like to beat that, please comment below and let's see it.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. During my transition from bodybuilding into endurance, I was going to go into powerlifting, and at my age and weight of 70k at the time, I was in the top 10 of tested and non-tested divisions. So yeah, and that was through no training in regards to powerlifting. That was just pure bodybuilding.
And I'm alive. I'm alive.
And I was bigger than vegan gains when I was 13 years old, and I've got photos to prove it. And I was natural as well, drug-free and all that sort of thing.
He doesn't eat organic plants because he realizes that organic plants only are there because of animal manure. How low can you be? How low can you stoop? It's pathetic. Grow up.
So in other words, none of you can bench as much as me. It was a yes or no question.
You just live in your house.
Pop to fuck. I don't care. Piss off. Give me a debate. Go on. Debate me. Good luck. You won't be able to win.
You eat organic because you
realize
realize
you won't be able to win.
Of animals and plants. Symbiosis is how life works since the beginning of time. But you don't understand how life works.
He's not said his body weight either. I can name a number of people if he gives a body weight category because I'm still friends with many powerlifters who have broken world records.
I would never debate a militant vegan. I am wiser than to waste my precious time trying to win you over. You're basically religious with your beliefs. You know, you're a misanthrope. You hate people. You love the animals, but you don't like people. You don't like nature. You don't like people. I'm not an idiot.
He's taken on this persona to obviously increase his view counts and the audience that he can possibly retain. Now, just because someone has a lot of subscribers, it doesn't mean that they're actually a popular person. Bear that in mind. I think he's got 300k subs, something like that, I think. I was following him years ago just out of hilarity, just to see what he would say next. The same with Frank Tofano. He built up a good following from his initial original high-quality content, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. He went full circle to an extent a few years back. Now he's playing on it, so you'll notice he'll start to make his thumbnails where he looks more cross-eyed, and he'll start addressing it more and start trying to play around the sensitivity side of it. These guys all do it, but the problem is they maintain that mask for so long. And I know nothing about masking because I'm autistic. And they maintain it for so long, they forget who they actually fucking are. And that's nuts.
Absolute delusion.
He feeds his
debate me or Bart. I don't care. We've got the same bloody approach to the whole thing.
Yeah,
no nonsense.
Cats
no
are
nonsense.
Carnivores. They need taurine, etc. Goes on and on and on. But you know, you don't even like the animals. You basically enslave an animal and feed them slop and gruel. Can't make this stuff up.
It sounds like the real Vegan Gains, because it's just aggression and chaos in his comments. And mate, you know, you're another human being. We want to give you a big hug and make sure you eat some proper food. But all you do is get sort of aggressive. It's really, really bizarre. We
lack of neurotransmitters.
We're just worried that you're influencing other people to get as barking mad as you.
I mean, if we all start to go vegan, do you want like all of our autoimmune conditions to come back, the mental health to come back, the obesity, the fatty liver, whatever? Do you like humans to live in that kind of state? I mean, I don't know. I can't get in the head of a vegan. It doesn't make sense.
It's just for the animals, Lee. You see, they say never would I ever, however ill I got, they say, I would never ever eat an animal. Then I go tick, 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 2 years down the line, they come for some help. My thyroid's gone. My joints don't work. My arse has exploded. Okay, let's give you some help now.
I don't use any. My animals are pasture raised for life. I eat one cow maybe a year, maybe a part of a bit of lamb. That's it. Yeah. They don't eat your corn-fed crap. They don't eat the crops.
We'll wrap up here now, guys. It's gone on a bit. It's getting too long.
Really quick.
We'll definitely wrap up now. Wrap up now. Let's go. Let's go.
Vegans. 2x vegans. 2x. Lee and Phil. X vegans because plants almost killed them.
Yeah, there you go.
I choose to live. What about you guys?
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I want to live. I choose me. I choose humans.
And I choose to kill the fewest animals with my diet.
Maybe one. Yeah.
We'll wrap up there. So anyone that wants to follow us for any reason in particular, our channels, our content, you can find Lee at Kent Carnivore. That's his YouTube channel. It's on the screen right now. Phil Escott, he's representing philescottsubstack.com. Also find him at the Carnivore Conference UK in about a month or so, something like that. All the information will be there on his channel. So if you go to his channel, which is called Phil Escott, look underneath the videos, under the tabs, you can find out all his information there. Richard Smith from the Keto Pro. Use discount code Carnivore Muscle 10 to save big. Or anyone else's code, doesn't really matter whose, but yeah. Anyway, that's Richard. Anyway, so also follow him on his channel, which is Keto Pro. We've got Coach Stephen, the UK Carnivore. He has lots of services, consultations, as well as Richard. Coaching, ebooks, any help blood tests you need, interpretation, things like that. Also Dr. Rabs. Do you want to just explain who your sort of service? I'm not completely familiar at the moment.
Yeah, sure. So I do a lot of cosmetic stuff, but also a lot of health and disease and longevity stuff. So a bit of both. You can see me in person, or you can see me online for things. My website is in this thing here, right there, and you can click on that and have a little look at everything if you like.
Splendid stuff. Well, I'm going to press a button now, and by the time we come back, we won't be here. So take care, guys, and thanks very much for watching.
Introducing Beef Up Carnivore Bodybuilding Bible. The ultimate guide for men and women to lose fat and build muscle. And the best part, it's only $12. Don't miss out on the most detailed resource available.